Both emotional intelligence and transformational leadership ask a lot from a leader. Let's examine each piece of those theories, starting with emotional intelligence. The first piece of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Being self-aware is important for everyone, and for leaders, self-awareness does several key things. First, it allows you to clarify your values. Just because you say you value something does not mean you actually value it. Self-awareness also allows you to align your actions with your values. You do what you value, not its opposite. When you act out of alignment with your spouse's values, you're a hypocrite, which can lead to a lack of trust from your library. Another benefit of self-awareness is making you more aware of your energy and workflow. I like to get started early in the morning. That's when I typically do my best work, so I schedule meetings for the afternoon. This might seem like a small thing, but being aware of when you work your best and what types of activities energize or drain you help you to perform at your best. If you know a meeting is going to drain you, then schedule light work after it. If you're more alert after lunch, then plan on making important decisions then. Self-awareness also lets you understand your strengths and limitations. No leader can do everything, so you need to surround yourself with people who complement your abilities and fill in your gaps. Are you good with people but bad with systems? Great with numbers, data, and budgets, but disorganized and bad about deadlines? This self-knowledge will help you fill out your leadership team. Self-awareness informs self-management. Knowing when is the best time for you to make a decision and why you're making a decision are key to leadership. Self-awareness and self-management allow us to do this. Self-management can help in ways we may not think about much. Much of our communication is nonverbal. Self-management allows us to control our nonverbal communication. As a leader, you cannot sit in a meeting and sigh, roll your eyes, or cross your arms and slouch. It also allows you to moderate your responses and be consistent in those responses. No matter what you do or how you act, some people will still find you unapproachable. But if you respond sweetly and gently one moment and then fly into a rage the next, no one will think you're approachable. And finally, self-management means you do not have to give an immediate answer. You can wait until you have the time to think about it and feel comfortable with your decision. Now, these first two pieces are about us and how we act. The next two pieces become more about others in the organization, therefore they become a little bit trickier. Now, empathy is a key component of not just emotional intelligence, being human. Empathy allows us to understand and connect with other human beings. Some people are naturally more empathetic than others, and some people grew up in environments where empathy was readily shown to them, making it easier for them to cultivate and express empathy. But empathy can be learned and developed, and is an important tool for a leader. Now, empathetic listening allows you to not only really listen to what they're actually saying, but make them feel like they're being heard. Now, a large part of communication, again, is nonverbal, and empathy helps you to hear what's not being said. Organizational awareness is important for a leader. You need to understand the groups, cliques, and politics of your library. Resident and dissident leadership are interesting concepts. Now, I've been in groups and led groups that I just didn't fit in with. And I've also been on the other side of that as well. Now, while empathy plays a role in this, I think a lot more of it comes down to cultural fit and the personalities of the group. Now, we will never resonate with the entire library. So we have to choose wisely about with whom to resonate. We do as leaders need to survey the climate from time to time in order to know when to act and how to moderate our behavior and communication. All right, if there's a climate at the moment, low morale, you don't want to make some big sweeping change. You want to be able to address that morale issue before you try to implement the change. Building relationships is key for a leader, and empathy is what we use to build relationships of mutual trust. Of course, building a relationship is a two-way street and requires the cooperation of another, which brings us to the piece of emotional intelligence, relationship management. Relationships both inside and outside the library are critical for our success. Of course, there are different levels of relationships. You may never be friends with the provost, but you want to keep on her good side. The same goes for everyone in the library. This is the piece least in control of you as a leader. You can do the first three pieces of emotional intelligence well, but it's still up to others what kind of relationship and if they actually want to have a relationship with you. Always keep in mind, however, that as a leader, you're being watched. Research has shown that baboons look up at the alpha baboon every 20 to 30 seconds, and humans are not much different. This is where self-management really comes into play, controlling your emotions and not getting stuck in a bad mood. This brings us to the role of followers in emotional intelligence. Does it take emotional intelligence to respond to emotional intelligence? Do you need high empathy to respond to empathy? How do you mentor someone with no or little self-awareness? Now, I worked with two people in another institution who lacked at least some self-awareness. One was not aware of how amazing her work was, and the other was unaware of how unamazing her work was. Now, the former is easier to work with and correct and help, but unfortunately the latter is far more common. I also worked with someone who had zero self-management. At times it felt like supervising them was like having a child, and this is not how I like to supervise others. Empathy may be the biggest piece that is needed in both followers and leaders. It does take empathy to perceive and respond to empathy. A lack of empathy in followers can result in responding to leader empathy with mistrust and conspiratorial worry. Now, the research on emotional intelligence followers is slim. The value of emotionally intelligent organizations has been written about, but there's no research on how rare or common they are. To me, our society lacks emotional intelligence, especially self-awareness and empathy. I think many of our political problems, particularly the divisiveness, can be attributed to a lack of these traits. So if our society as a whole is not emotionally intelligent, then it should come as no surprise that our organizations are not either. Now, whether that holds true for a profession like librarianship will be seen in an upcoming research project of mine. But as we discussed in the first week, one of the biggest problems with the leadership literature is a focus on what is missing in our organizations and leadership, and an appeal for leaders to do those things, not what leaders actually do or what they need to do.